Hi, my name is Heather Feather. I'm the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today I wanted to talk about the sensitivity myth. There, in my experience, is a quality with more evolved, more advanced beings, a quality of sensitivity. And sensitivity is a term that can often be vilified here. Like, oh, you're just so sensitive. I've known a lot of people in a lot of different age groups being told they're sensitive in a judgmental sort of way, like you're so sensitive. And so with sensitivity, typically what is present is emotional intelligence, empathy. I have a tremendous amount of empathy myself, and I'm really grateful for it. It actually causes me to be able to walk in other people's shoes, understand where they come from. I love my sensitivity and my empathy. And the myth around sensitivity, as entities do evolve, they do become, in my experience, more sensitive to different ways of being, different ways of existence, and more compassionate to, like, I don't walk that path, but I have compassion for it. More compassion can become present with greater sensitivity, empathy, and emotional intelligence. However, any element that you have too much of becomes problematic. And I've tried to state this before. I actually stated it several months ago and lost one of my best friends in this conversation. So I'm going to invite anyone listening to this video to really listen to what I'm saying, because if it's not heard, if what I'm saying is not heard, if it goes through your filter, if you were called sensitive a lot and if that was vilified, then you might have a difficult time hearing me, because as I talk about this topic, it may feel like I'm pushing a button within you. However, I do think that this is an important topic to discuss. It is the inordinate amount of sensitivity that I hold within my being that has actually caused me to spend so much of my life in a depressive state. Now, it is that same sensitivity that can cause me to be a very attentive, generous listener, that can cause me to have great compassion and empathy for where someone else is coming from. However, too much water, too much emotion, too much sensitivity, you give a plant too much water and you'll drown it. It'll tell you, its leaves will turn yellow and be like, please stop overwatering me, you know? In the same vein, if you don't give it any water, the leaves will turn brown, and also life won't proliferate without some level of water. We do need water. We do need emotion. Some people, their growth edge is to garner greater empathy, emotional intelligence, and sensitivity. That being said, there are a lot of things that cause a two-legged to feel lack of harmony. And one of the big things I see that causes a two-legged to feel lack of harmony is the sense or the concept that someone is not being sensitive to your labels, to your identification, to your way of beingness. So let's say, for example, you are a person of color and somebody is being, racist or ignorant. They're not evolved into greater emotional intelligence, greater sensitivity, greater empathy to diversity. And so they're acting in a non-evolved way in relationship to you. Now, that is hurtful. Typically, if we're being honest about it, it's hurtful to not be received because of something so simple as your sexuality, your gender identification, your culture, your skin coloration. That can be hurtful. However, it is that pain comes from expecting a kindergartner to act like a college student, is how I essentially hold it. There can be an underlying expectation that other two-leggeds be as evolved as you. And a couple of things shake out in the wash on that. Number one, you're not appreciating your own growth, your own evolution, your own capacity to accept and to embrace and to be a bridge builder instead of a wall maker. That's a gift that you have if you have the capacity to be emotionally intelligent in response to another. That's a life skill, and it's an important one. There are many geniuses that have not gotten acknowledged in the annals of time that had wonderful writings in their desk drawer, but they didn't have the emotional intelligence and the empathy and sensitivity to build relationship, to sell their ideas to others, or to connect others to their ideas. So it definitely is a life skill. The book Emotional Intelligence is a phenomenal book about this particular quality called EQ. We place a lot of attention on IQ, but EQ is equally important. However, we are not all evolving at the same rate here at Earth School. So when we go out and we get offended and we get upset that there are groups of people that are not sensitive to our identification markers, that are not sensitive to our labels, well, here's what I think is useful to consider in relationship to this topic. Do you think all 7.9 billion people are evolving at the exact same rate? I mean, I can say from my personal experience, I have not experienced all two-leggeds in an equal state of evolution in their offering and their come from and their propensity to hold a greater largesse in the magnitude of love they're able to express. So what is frustrating to me is when somebody is in a state of pain, in a state of emotional hurt, in a state of suffering because of those two-leggeds that are essentially in kindergarten while you're in a senior college class, because their evolution rate is much slower and they haven't learned enough from their past. So they may evolve, they may choose to take thousands of lifetimes to evolve, in which you took hundreds of lifetimes to evolve, and you got there quicker. And then it's like, come on, get on program. I know I can be that way. I'm just like, oh my God, wake up, But it's like, wait a minute. If I were teaching a class, I wouldn't expect every student to respond the same or to have the same needs in the classroom. And I would expect diversity in the students, diversity in their expression, diversity in their sharing. It's one of the things I love about being a spiritual teacher. I get this rich matrix of deliciousness from the diversity of two-leggeds down here. One of the ways that I said this that actually caused a rift between me and my best friend, which, maybe a permanent rift, and that's fine. Sometimes people are in your life for a season, sometimes they're there for years, and sometimes you just grow into having different needs in the way you want things to be expressed around you. But what I was talking about specifically was comedians. I love comedians. I love comedy. I'm always trying to grab a laugh. I've said before, I'm trying to fill up my basket of life with giggles, with laughs. I want my basket of life to be filled with laughs. I'm trying to giggle, I'm trying to laugh at all, I'm trying to have fun down here, I'm trying to enjoy this, because there's plenty I've been offered and handed that is not fun. So I'm going to put more fun in the basket of life before I exit, because death is imminent, coming like a freight train for all of us. Might as well get a little toot toot in the train ride to the graveyard, Might as well get a little bit more enjoyment out of the path we're walking here. And how much of our path do we want to consume our attention with those that are in a non-evolved state? They'll get there eventually. I trust that they'll get home eventually, but they're not there yet. So, and you can say like, oh, that's easy for you to say, but it's not. I've dealt with some serious trauma at the hands of people that are not in an evolved state. I've had to process it. I've had to assimilate it. I've had to understand what it all meant to me. But what I do know is, irrespective of me wanting the entire world to be evolved or not, it never has been. We've never had an entire world of all evolved people. There's always been a delicious, rich, diverse matrix in the state of evolution for each two-legged. So when we go to comedy and we go to comedians and those that make me laugh, there are many types of comedy out there. There are observational comedians, which I love. They have a very witty, astute capacity to understand what's funny about existence. There are comedians that are self-deprecating. And for some, they don't like a self-deprecating comedian because they're sensitive. It hurts their feelings to see somebody make fun of themselves. For others, they're just able to laugh at it. It's like, oh, class clown, I'm going to laugh at you while you laugh at yourself. I know you don't mean it, you know. And then there are those that make fun of others. There are comedians that literally make fun of every way of being. And there are those that take sensitivity into a comedy show and go, oh, this comedian's making fun of me as a trans person. This comedian's making fun of me as an Asian person. This comedian. Well, here's the thing to know about comedy. Comedy comes in different styles and different formats. And some of those styles and formats are completely about making fun of things. So I don't recommend taking your sensitivity to a comedy show where the comedian's matrix of comedy is about laughing at everything in life and everyone. You're going to get your feelings hurt. If you're going to go to that type of comedy show, if you're going to watch that type of comedian, it's important to know their matrix and the type of comedy they offer. If you don't like the type of comedy where comedians make fun of stuff and you feel too sensitive to laugh at that, then I don't recommend that type of comedy for you. Maybe try observational comedy. Maybe comedy's not your thing. What I do know is that you don't have to be hurt and offended in response to anything anyone says. Everyone's in a different state of evolution. You can choose to. You can certainly choose to. You can be like, well, that was deeply offensive. I listen to a lot of comedians that are, it's like, this guy is wildly misogynistic, but I don't care. Like, I'm just trying to laugh at life. In that moment, I'm not trying to be like, this guy's not following the socially appropriate PR rules and how to be, because he is a comedian and he is exemplifying comedy. And so there are many comedians that are like, can I just joke around? Can y'all stop taking it seriously? I don't actually hate women. I love my wife. I'm just trying to joke about these dynamics of existence. And there are some dynamics of existence that are pretty ridiculous. So yeah, I'm willing to laugh at any of it. I love dad jokes. Give it, bring it. I love to laugh. I'm just trying to laugh. I'm not trying to take something that's meant to tickle my funny bone and use it as a means to find another reason to expect life to respond like I do to life. There's way too much diversity we just have an immense amount of diversity with 7.9 billion people. Tremendous diversity. I'm never going to have all the people down here like what I have to say, agree with me, share things in the way that I do, get things the way that I do. And a lot of two-leggeds are not fully expressing themselves, their gifts, their offerings, because they just think, well, not everyone's going to get it. Correct. There's never going to be a time when everybody at Earth School is going to get you. There's never going to be that time. That day is not coming. That day is not coming. There are plenty that are like, that lady is the devil, no doubt. You know, I mean, they for me to even talk about witchcraft makes me evil, you know, and it could be confusing. How could I study Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus the Christ one, this beautiful brown man's teachings, and also study witchcraft? Well, I'm happy to discuss that in the upcoming witchcraft class, but let me tell you this. There's never going to be an entire world that loves what I have to say. And there's never going to be an entire world that lives life your way, that has your level of understandings. Maybe it's time to appreciate your own level of evolution. And maybe instead of bringing always sensitivity and water to each thing and each aspect of life, maybe sometimes you need to bring some fire. Maybe sometimes you need some earth. Maybe sometimes you need some air. Maybe if you're going to go to a comedy show where somebody is the type of comedian that's making fun of stuff, you bring your cold, windy air and just, let me think about that silly thought. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not the place to bring your well of water. If you have too much water, you'll drown a plant. If you have too little, it will die just the same. If you don't have dirt, if you don't have soil, if you don't have earthy groundedness to put some aspects of life in, the seed will never bloom and bear fruit. If you don't have fire, this fire of the sun to cast down on that seed to help it to rise up and photosynthesize into a tree, then you're not going to have, you don't have the fire of passion, energy, heat, new ideas, new ways of looking at things, then you're never going to have life proliferate. We've got to have fire. We've got to have water. We've got to have air. You've got to have wind to blow the seed to fertile soil. That air's got to get in there and take it where it needs to go. So my invitation and invocation today is, are you hurting yourself with too much sensitivity, too much water, too much expectation for others to be like you? Is it possible that it's time to drop some of that and just let people be in their own state of evolution and focus in on your star player and make sure that you are in balance with the way you are experiencing life. Go to rarebirdmedicine.com and click on the classes link. New classes coming up. Blessed be.